Well, in the last class, we discussed the general characters of chordates, and we know the chordates include the animals that possess three distinctive characters. One is called the notochord, and the second one is the dorsal nerve cord, and third one is the pharyngeal slits. And it includes, this group also includes the protochordates. Protochordate means the urochordate and the cephalochordates and the vertebrates. Vertebrates are the group of chordates in which the notochord is replaced by vertebral column. And we will see the general characters of all these protochordates and vertebrates in this class. And the chordates includes the largest animals on the earth, like the blue whale, that is the Belnoptera musculus and the Rhincodon typus. And see the notochord. Notochord is a flexible rod-like structure, and it is in the mid-dorsal line between the gut and the nerve cord. And it is the first part of the endoskeleton to appear in the embryo. And we know that it derived from the mesoderm, and this part of the embryonic part is known as the chorda mesoderm. And it is made up of core vacuolated cells and the inner thick fibrous cells and the outer elastic connective tissue. So this is the inner vacuolated cells. It is surrounded by a fibrous connective sheath, and further it is surrounded by the elastic connective sheath. And it is present throughout the life in case of lancelets and cyclostomes. We will see what are the lancelets and what are cyclostomes. And we have also discussed that in certain animals like the urochordates, example is the Acidia, in which we find only in the tail, and it is lost in the adult state. Hence, it is known as the retrogressive metamorphosis. That means the larval forms will have all the advanced characters, but the adults show the degenerate characters, whereas this kind of metamorphosis is known as the retrogressive metamorphosis. So the notochord is present throughout the life, or at least during the part of their life history. It can be taken as a chordate. And in case of those animals like the vertebrates, the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column. And in such animals, there is a remnant of the notochord, and it occurs as a nuclei pulposi in the intervertebral discs of the mammals. So this is the transfer section of the notochord. So this is the inner notochordal cells that are vacuolated. It is connected by the outer elastic and the fibrous connective sheath. And the second important character of the chordates is the dorsal tubular nerve cord. And we know this dorsal tubular nerve cord is dorsal, and it is above the notochord. So this is the nerve cord which is dorsal in position, and it is dorsal to the notochord. And it is a single, and it's a hollow tubular and fluid filled structure. And most importantly, it is not ganglionated. And it is derived from the ectoderm. And the anterior part will become the brain, and the rest become the spinal cord. This third one is the pharyngeal slits or the clefts. Pharyngeal slits means a series of lateral perforations in the pharynx through which the water flows, and it is derived from the ectoendodermal. And it may persist, that means it may continue throughout the life in case of protochordate, that means the urochordate and cephalochordates, fishes, and some amphibians. And in some cases, the walls of pharyngeal slits develop vascular lamella, and these vascular lamella are called as gills, and which are respiratory organs in many aquatic organisms, including the fishes. And these are the sites where there is a exchange of respiratory gases. That means these lamella are innervated by the endothelial tissue, endothelial walls of the blood capillaries, and which are very thin, and the gases are able to diffuse through these endothelial walls. And in case of amniotes, these are non-functional and appears only in case of embryonic life. And later these are replaced by the lungs. So that means the appearance of this pharyngeal pouches gives us an indication of its aquatic ancestry. That means the earliest form of life has began in water. And fourth one is the post-anal type. So these three characters, that is the notochord, the dorsal nerve cord, and pharyngeal slits, are the three fundamental characters. And the other one is the post-anal type. And many times the chordates may have a tail which extends beyond the anus, and it may be lost during the embryonic development. And it contains, that means the tail consists of the skeletal elements and the muscles, but it doesn't have the coelom or visual organs. And what is the use of this tail? Tail acts as a balancing organ. And the chordates share some characters with echinoderms. These are deuterostromes, and they are radial. They show radial symmetry, and they show indeterminate cleavage. That means the fate of the blastomeres is not fixed. And these are enterocoelom. That means the coelom is derived from the enteron, that is the gut. And other important characters is bilateral symmetry. We know what is bilateral symmetry, and they are triploblastic. That means three layers, three general layers will be there, and they show the organ grade. And metamerism. Metamerism means all the body parts are segmented. That means body shows some kind of segmentations, and these segments are known as metameres, and all the body parts are segmentally arranged. And another important factor is the cephalization. Cephalization means formation of head that includes all the sense organs. And in case of chordates, we can see the anterior portion of the nerve cord becomes the brain, and it is enclosed by cranium, and in case of the vertebrates. And we will see in further detail. And these are enterocoelic, as I have already discussed. These are enterocoelic coelom, and they show complete digestive system. That means mouth and the anus, and a closed circulatory system. That means the blood flows through the blood vessels. And they have a myogenic heart which is ventrally placed, and this is a very important character. And muscles will show phosphocreatine. Phosphocreatine is a product or material that is present in the muscles. So these are some important characters. And this is the fundamental structure of a chordate, typical chordate. See, this yellow layer is the dorsal tubular nerve cord. That means we will see right from the beginning, the one is the mouth, and two is the pharyngeal gill slits, and third one is the anus, and fourth one is the tail. You see, the skeletal elements also extends, and the fifth one is, that is the orange colored portion, is known as the notochord. Notochord is between the nerve cord and the digestive system. See, and sixth one is dorsal tubular nerve cord. So this is the anterior portion, which becomes brain in some animals. And seventh one is the muscle segment. See, these are the muscles. These are segmentally arranged. And we know the classification. Classification includes three subphylums, and these three subphylums are: one is the urochordata, and second one is the cephalochordata, and third one is vertebrata. And we know the urochordata and cephalochordata are collectively known as the protochordata. And we discussed to some extent the details of the general characters of the urochordates. Urochordates are commonly known as tunicates. Tunicates means the body is covered by a cellulose-like material called tunicin. So since the body is covered by tunicin, tunicin is nothing but a kind of cellulose-like material. Hence, these are also known as the tunicates. Tunicates means the urochordate, the animals that are included in the urochordata. Urochordata means the notochord is present in the tail. Uro means tail. So also they are also known as the sea squids. We will discuss about the general characters later in this class. And second one is the cephalochordata. That means notochordata extends into the cephalon. Cephalon means head region, and it includes a very important genus known as the Amphioxus. We will see later what is a Amphioxus, and these are also known as lancelets. Lancelets. And third subphylum is the vertebrata, also known as the craniata. Craniata means the brain is enclosed by cranium or a bony structure, and this is also known as craniata. Vertebrata means the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column, and these includes, so vertebral column means the backbone. These includes the fishes, amphibians, reptiles, the birds, and the mammals. So all these are included in the phylum vertebrata or craniata. We will see so these are some important differences between chordates and non-chordates. So in case of chordates, the notochord is present, and in case of non-chordates, the notochord is absent. And in case of chordates, the central nervous system is dorsal. This is very important. That means the central nervous system, that means the nerve cord, brain and the nerve cord are dorsal. We have seen how the nerve cord is placed on the dorsal side above the notochord, and it is a halo single and it is non-ganglionated. So this is a very important point you should remember. The central nervous system is dorsal. But in case of chordates, see remember the nervous system of the earthworm. We see the double ventral nerve cord is in the ventral side of the body. So this is the fundamental difference between the chordates and the non-chordates with respect to the central nervous system. Central nervous system is ventral and it is solid. In case of chordates, it is hollow. It is hollow, but here it is and it is double. That means double two in structure, and it is ganglionated. It is ganglionated. And third one is pharynx. In case of chordates, we have seen it is perforated, and these perforations are known as the gill slits. But here we don't find any kind of gill slits. No gill slits are present. Okay. Now the heart is ventral, so this is very important. Heart is ventral, but in case of non-chordates, heart is always dorsal only when it is present. So when present, it is dorsal, and a post-anal tail is present in case of chordates, but we don't find any kind of tail-like structure that is similar to that of chordates. We say in case of in some non-chordates there is a tail, but it is not as we discussed in case of this chordates. So tail in case of chordates is something different from the non-chordates. Okay. So now we come to the classification. First we will deal with the urochordates. So this is the first one, the subphylum Urochordata, also known as the tunicata. Also known as the tunicata. Why tunicata? Because the body is composed by a cellulose-like structure, and it is also known as tunic, or it is called the test. So hence these are called tunicates. So urochordata, uro means the tail and chorda means the notochord. So these are marine animals, and these are either live on the surface or in the depth, deep water. And these are sessile. Sessile means they attach to the substratum. That means they do not show any kind of movements. Or pelagic. Pelagic means, remember, pelagic means those live on the surface of the water are known as the pelagic. Okay, so those are on the surface of the water in case of ocean. So these are called pelagic organisms. Or they are solitary. Solitary means acidia. So this is a common example of the urochordata known as acidia. And they are sometimes colonial. Colonial means they live in groups. And the most important colonial urochordate is the pyrosoma. Pyrosoma is very, very important, and it shows a very good character known as bioluminescence. We have discussed about the bioluminescence in the ecology, in the abiotic factor light. Bioluminescence means the light emitted by the living organisms, and pyrosoma shows the bioluminescence, and it is a colonial urochordate. And now the body is unsegmented. That means it doesn't show any segments, and it is covered by a test or tunic composed of cellulose. And cellulose is a plant material, and you never see this kind of plant material or cellulose in animals because it is very, very uncommon in case of animals. And most importantly, the coelom is absent. No coelom is present. Remember, urochordates show very prominent features like the body is covered by cellulose-like structure, and they do not have any kind of coelom. But atrial cavity is present. Atrial cavity means a cavity that surrounds the pharynx region. So this is known as the atrial cavity. So this is the atrium. And this is a cavity that is present in the pharynx. That means it surrounds the pharynx region. Pharynx region means that is beyond the mouth. We will see what is the atrial cavity. And in the atrial cavity, we can see the gill slits, the anus, the genital ducts open. So this is the stomach. So this is the atrial cavity. So this is the atrial cavity, and into which we can see the stomach is opening up, the gonads are opening up, even the pharyngeal slits are also opening up. And most importantly, the pharynx will have a particular structure known as the endostyle. So remember this endostyle, we will come across this structure in vertebrates also. Endostyle is a preliminary form of the thyroid gland. That means later this endostyle is converted or modified into thyroid glands in case of vertebrates. So endostyle is present in the pharynx region. And atrium leads to exterior by atrial epicure. So this is the incurrent siphon. That means the water enters through this one, and we will see how this atrium. So this is the outer exit. So water enters into this atrium and the water leaves through this. This is known as the atrial aperture. And digestive tract is complete. That means it will have both anus. So the two numerous gill slits are present in the pharyngeal wall. That means many. So these are the gill slits. So these are the gill slits, and this is the endostyle. Remember, endostyle and the gill slits are present in the pharynx region, and pharynx region surrounds the pharynx region is surrounded by the atrial cavity. Atrial cavity will have incoming and the outgoing facility. That means it has an incurrent siphon and excurrent siphon. So these are the atrial aperture or the posterior aperture. And next one is the circulatory system is open type. So we have a open type of circulatory system, and the ventral heart is present, and it is a very simple and tubular. And the most important character of the circulatory system of urochordates is that it can reverse the blood flow. This is a very important character. So the heart alternatively reverses the direction of the flow of the blood. That means the blood flow direction is altered. That means it can also reverse the direction of the flow of the blood. And nervous system composed of a single dorsal ganglion, and these are bisexual or hermaphrodites. Most importantly, the development includes a larva known as tadpole larva. So this you have to remember. This is a very important one. So tadpole larva అనేది ఇక్కడ కనిపిస్తుంది. And tadpole larva will have a tail, a dorsal halo nerve cord. See, the larva is having a tail, a dorsal halo nerve cord, and a notochord confined to the tail. Hence the name urochordates. In case of adults, this notochord is completely reduced. Hence it is known as the retrogressive metamorphosis. So what are the important characters in case of urochordates? We have discussed about the tunicata or the tunicin or the cellulose-like material, and the atrial cavity that surrounds the pharynx region, and we have endostyle in the pharynx region, which is a form of thyroid gland in case of higher vertebrates, and there is a reverse direction. The flow of blood is reversed by the ventral heart, and we have open circulatory system, and we have a larva known as tadpole larva, and larva will have the notochord in the tail region, and it will have a dorsal nerve cord, halo nerve cord, and hence it is also known as the urochordates. And what are the examples? Acidia. So this is the example of acidia, and we have discussed about the pyrosoma. Pyrosoma is a colonial form and it shows the bioluminescence. And we have salpa and doliolum are the some other representing forms of the this urochordates. So this is the structure we have discussed about the acidium. So this is the incurrent siphon, or we can treat it as a mouth, and this is known as the excurrent siphon. Hence we see this is a complete, this anus opens like this one. So this is the stomach, and this is esophagus, this is the pharynx region, gill slits, and this is known as the atrium, and body is covered by cellulose-like material called tunix, and pharynx is with numerous gill slits. And this is the pyrosoma. pyrosoma that shows the bioluminescence. Okay. So second one is the subphylum Cephalochordata. Cephala means head, chordata means chord. That means here you can see the notochord extends to the head region also. You can have a better view in this picture. So this is the head region and this is the tail region. You see the red one. The red one is the notochord and it extends to the head region also. Hence it is known as the notochord. The most important genus is Amphioxus, also known as lancelet. Amphi means both side. Axis means pointed. That means it shows the both ends are pointed, and hence it is known as Amphioxus, or also known as the Branchiostoma, also known as the lancelet. That means it's like an arrow-like structure. So branchiostoma or the amphioxus is the representing form of the cephalochordates. And these are marine. So these are the marine animals and they show burrowing mode of life. This is very important. Burrowing means they go deep inside the soil. So that means they show the burrowing mode of life in the seawater. That means they show a living style which is known as the burrowing mode. That means they go deep inside the soil. And these are fish-like forms with median fins but without paired fins. We will discuss in the fishes what are the paired fins, what are non-paired fins. And these are most importantly known as the typical chordates. Typical chordates means a chordate which show all the characters of the chordates. That is called the typical chordate. Typical ante sadharana అనేటువంటి అర్థం. టిపికల్ అంటే అర్థం ఏంటంటే general సాధారణమైనటువంటి అని అర్థం. So it possesses all the principal notochordate characters such as the notochord, the tubular nerve cord, and the pharyngeal cells throughout their life. So this is why it is known as the typical chordates. Okay. Next one. Notochord extends from the posterior end to the anterior end. That means the notochord extends to the anterior end of the body beyond the nerve cord. You see here. So you see here. So notochord extends even beyond the nerve cord. Means into the head region. And the muscles are known as the myotomes. That means the blocks of the muscles. The coelom, we know it is enterocoelic, and these are importantly the ciliary or filter feeders. Ciliary or filter feeders means small organisms will be taken into the mouth and the water is filtered out and these microorganisms will be taken in. Or it is also known as the ciliary mode of feeding. That means a cilia-like structure will create a current in the water and this direction of water will be towards the mouth. And once the water enters into the mouth, the small microorganisms like plankton are filtered and they will be taken into the digestive tract. That means the water is filtered and the microorganisms like planktons will be eaten. Even in case of whales, we can see they are also filter feeders. So that type of feeding is known as the filter feeders. They don't take all the organisms into the mouth. So they don't take entire organisms into mouth, but only the small plankton-like structures. And pharynx is surrounded by the ectoderm and lined by the cavity called the atrium. And here also we can see a endostyle present in the ventral side of the pharynx. And most importantly, the exchange of respiratory gases occurs through the external body surface. So no special respiratory organs are present. And we have a closed type of circulatory system in which we don't have any kind of heart, blood corpuscles, and respiratory pigments. So even though the circulatory system is of closed type, we don't have any blood, we don't have any heart, and you don't have any respiratory pigments. And excretion is performed by a very important cells known as solenocytes and of protonephridia. Remember the nephridia we discussed in case of Annelida. So solenocytes are the excretory cells, and we have gonads without gonoducts. No ducts are there. And fertilization is external, and it includes a free swimming larval form. So what are the important characters in case of this cephalochordates? Cephalochordates includes the branchiostoma or the amphioxus. These are known as the typical chordates because all the important characters of the chordates, that is the notochord, the tubular nerve cord, the pharyngeal slits, are present throughout the life. And they have atrium, they have endostyle, and most importantly, these are ciliary and are filter feeders. And no respiratory organs are present, and circulatory system closed with no heart, blood, and the respiratory pigments. Excretion is performed by the solenocytes, and fertilization is external, and the development includes the free swimming larva. So amphioxus means it is pointed at both the ends. So this is the structure of the amphioxus, also known as the landslide. So you can see here, so the water enters into the mouth and leaves the pharyngeal slits. And during this process, the small microorganisms like plankton are filtered and they enter into the stomach region. And this type of mode of feeding is known as the ciliary mode of feeding or the filter feeding. Okay. Okay, 5 minutes.